What's up, guys? JP coming at you. I'm going to bring you the movement today, and I am joined with the Shepherds of Men. I've got Cam.
Yeah.
I've got Wilson.
What's up?
And I have got Mr. Producer. Oh.
What's up, guys?
What's up, guys?
Guys, we're gonna talk about Ante Up. I'm gonna label this Ante Up, okay? Because we're gonna talk about starting to bet on yourself, okay? This was really kind of hit my heart whenever I was talking to a guy this last week. I had a conversation with him, young guy, and everything that I kept pulling out of him was, for one, there was a lack of confidence in himself, and for two, a lot of what I was pulling from this guy was that he was really, like, he felt like he needed society, and he needed everybody else to kind of help him accomplish what he needed to do. Now, understand, there is a certain aspect of you're not going to become great by yourself, but you have to start to become great, and in the process, you'll learn how to build confidence in other people and stuff like that. But what I want to talk about is betting on yourself. How do you start to develop confidence, self-confidence in yourself to the point where you can bet on yourself? Like, if it's up to me, I'm going to win, kind of thing. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit, and I want to pick the brains because, and I think this is a great topic for the individuals that are sitting in here, because I think the guys that are here, and not in an egotistical kind of way, but there is a certain sense of self-confidence that's basically, if it's up to me, I will win. One way or the other, I'm going to win. If it takes me 20 years, I'll win. And it's just a matter of confidence from things that we've talked about in the past, in mindset, between a fixed and a growth mindset. If you have a growth mindset, then you're automatically able to bet on yourself, because you know that if you invest the time, effort, and consistency, you'll be able to accomplish anything that you want to accomplish. But I think that it's very important that you bet on yourself, because there's nothing else that's going to pay you better. I mean, that's a fact of the matter.
Yep.
And you have to start to think of yourself as being an investor, and not just a consumer. Stop consuming all the crap around you and start investing in yourself. If all you're doing is spending time consuming stuff from other people and things of that nature, then you need to really start to do a little bit of a pivot there and start to think of yourself as an investor. What have I invested in myself today? What have I done today to make myself better? I know Amelia Earnhardt had a really good quote that I was reading just this last week, and a lot of this stuff hit me, and I think a lot of it is just perspective, right? I was in the mindset of having this conversation with this young kid, great kid, really good kid, just needed a little bit of guidance on where he needed to get better, and sometimes we all need that. Somebody from the outside. If you don't have a mentor in your life, or somebody that can look at you and say, hey, look, I know that you're sitting on the inside, but from the outside, this is what I see that you need to fix. You need to find one. Just get a set of balls and go ask somebody that you really respect if they would have the time to mentor you. Most of the time, really successful people are looking to give back anyways. They've accomplished a lot in their life, and one of the things they want to do is give back. So please understand that self-confidence will help you, select better mentors, on the path there. So she said, Amelia Earnhardt said, the most difficult decision is the decision to act. The rest of it is just tenacity. So I think what holds a lot of people back is that first initial move, that first initial step that you have to take. And we're gonna give you some insight on how to develop that self-confidence and stuff like that. And the expectation is, after you listen to this, you have no excuse not to take the next steps in developing your self-confidence. So I was reading a book, and Tony Robbins has been somebody that I've been looking at, because I really want to understand the psychology of why people are the way they are. And Tony Robbins is an unbelievable resource when it comes to stuff like that. He's very, very good at it. But he had a quote that said, contrary to popular wisdom, knowledge is not power. It's potential power. Knowledge is not mastery. Execution is mastery. Execution will trump knowledge every day of the week. So if you're starting to see a pattern here, there's execution and activity, correct? So, most people struggle to bet on themselves because they don't have, or they haven't made their futures real, right? So, in order for you to bet on yourself, you have to believe in the future that you have for yourself. So, we've talked about previously in another episode about your vision. hosted one about why you're not winning, because you don't have a clear vision. You don't have a clear vision to act on. Now, obviously, you still have to act, but if you don't have a clear vision, then how are you going to bet, right? So when we talk about Ante Up, you put it in terms of cards. If you have your cards and you pick them up, you're going to make a decision whether or not you want to bet on your cards. Now, in life, you don't get a new set of cards. Your cards were dealt to you. You have to make the best out of the cards that you have, and you have to play them the way they need to be played. But you need to learn how to play. So you have to understand the rules of the game. But one of the things that I think is one of the biggest driving factors of people that bet on themselves as opposed to people who don't bet on themselves is their own self-confidence, right? So what is self-confidence? Okay. And I'm glad that you asked.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Great question.
You may say that it's a trait that only the lucky among us are born with, right? Because a lot of people believe that the lucky among us were born with this self-confidence. They just have this aura about them. They're just confident. I don't know. I just wish I could be like them.
The ones that aren't talk like that.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly right. But that's a fixed mindset, right? And we've talked about this in the past. Once you understand the growth mindset, then you understand that self-confidence is just a few steps away for you, and it's just a lack of activity. So self-confidence is simply the thoughts that we think, and it's paired with the actions that we take, okay? It's not any more complicated than that, so don't overcomplicate this. It creates self-belief. This creates belief, and belief is confidence best friend. So as you start to believe in yourself due to action, then your self-confidence is going to grow. So it has to do, it has less to do with your actual abilities and more to do with the belief in your abilities is where your self-confidence is. You guys ever met those individuals that won't let the truth stand in the way of an answer?
Yeah.
Think about that
So
for a
true.
minute. They won't let the truth stand in the way of an answer.
Yeah.
So one of the
Got a lot to
things,
say.
yeah,
It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got a lot to say.
so they have mastered self-confidence. They've done a very good job of becoming very self-confident. They just don't have a whole lot of content behind that to support it. So understand that your self-confidence should be backed by
Did you guys see the
somebody.
debate this week?
Oh, dude.
Speaking
Anyways,
of,
go ahead. What you were saying.
yeah.
Go ahead,
Speaking
what you were
of, one of the things I guess I want you guys to touch on, because what I want to know is, and I know all you guys are confident, and you guys all have self-confidence. You guys all believe that you can accomplish things that you want to accomplish. How did you guys? Listen, two-part question. When did that happen for you? When did the light switch turn on? Like, what was one of those turning moments in your life that you started to go, I am the master of my ship. My destiny is mine to create. And how did you cultivate that self-confidence to today?
That's great.
One thing I want to go back just real quickly. I just thought it was interesting that you used the word execution, which means getting shit done, and Trump in the same sentence. So I thought that was interesting.
That was not an accident.
I didn't think it was. I know you pretty well. So subliminal messages.
Right?
There's the title, and then there's the subtitle.
That's right.
So the question was, when did you develop there? When did you realize?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a date.
Yeah.
At
It
what
was
point?
January 32nd.
Yeah, right. At 7:32 a.m. So at what point in your life did things start to turn in the direction of going, you know what? I'm the master of my ship. And then from that point, you start cultivating the garden and start saying, you know, my self-confidence is due to me.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a progression for me. Like, one thing that I didn't really realize, and probably am even realizing as we speak, honestly, is that I've often thought about how my dad's an amazing example and just a great father, but we didn't really have a lot of intentional conversations about things. Like, I'm very intentional with my kids about teaching them things. My dad always just kind of taught through the way he lived, and then sometimes he would have some words behind it. But a part of that was, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but he would just let me figure stuff out. Like, he would really let me, I mean, I'm talking about, like, he was, and this is not a negative, but he wasn't involved at all with me pursuing college, like getting into college and like what school I was going to go to and how I was going to pay for it. He wasn't involved in all with like the first house I had or any other apartment or house after that. Like, I see this generation now where like literally the parents are still treating their adult kids like they're little kids and doing every little thing for them. Like telling them, okay, you got to pay rent on this day. I know you're 25, but these bills are due. If you want to send them home, we'll pay them for you. We'll go online and pay them for you. Bring your laundry home. Like, I never had. It was always like, if I didn't figure it out, like, you were just going to starve and live outside. And again, I don't know if that was intentional or not. If it was brilliant, because it did help me develop like this mentality of, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. Like, that's the only way it's going to happen. And so early on, as probably in high school and sports and economics, education, things like that, like it was always on me. And then as I moved into the college world and being an adult, outside of that, so those are two different times, by the way. The adult thing happened after college, a couple of years after college.
They didn't teach you how to do that in college?
They didn't teach me shit in college. Taught me how
That's why you always say you want a diploma. You can have
you
mine.
can have mine. They taught me how to have debt. That's the only thing they taught me. But anyway, so there was always a responsibility that had to be taken, and I think it was because my dad always was like, "You're going to sink or swim," you know. And so I appreciate him for that. And then it became what it did is it did build belief because I did figure out how to not drown. And I was like, wow, I'm actually at least floating. I'm not like an Olympic swimmer by any means, but I'm floating. I'm alive, you know. So maybe there's some things that I could do where I could actually be a good swimmer, you know, to use the metaphor. So then it was like a cultivation of that. Okay, how can I get better? Obviously, nobody is going to say that nobody's going to hand it to me. So what are the things that I need to do to increase my ability to not just stay alive in the water, but to excel in the water? You know, how do I actually accomplish the goals? How do I actually win a medal, so to speak? And that really truly came from other mentorship. You know, for a while it was me seeking, how can I learn from somebody? Who else can I look at? Who can I ask questions to? Because I figured somebody would be willing to answer. And then when I actually did have mentors in my life, I started developing habits. You know, like I started realizing like, oh, there's things you can do to grow your mindset. There's things you can do to grow yourself physically. There's things you can do to have a stronger spiritual foundation, you know, so you can be more emotionally stable. You know, so there's all these different things that I learned from having a mentor in my life. Like you talked about, I started asking people, will you take time to have lunch with me? Will you take time to have a phone call with me at midnight, you know, for however long or whatever? And the truth is, people that have had success in their own personal life really are eager to say, this is what you need to do.
Yep.
And I don't, and now some, maybe from an egotistical standpoint, some, but I think it's a small percentage. I think more or probably most are people that are just like, this has impacted me so much. These things that I do have impacted my life so much that I want to share it. Like it's truly that good. I want to share it. And all they're waiting for is for somebody to ask, you know? So somewhere around that, you know, late high school, early college time frame, early 20s is for me personally. And then ever since then, it's been, you know, constantly keeping those habits in my life. And anytime I've waned from those, I've been reminded of, you know, why do you not feel as confident about winning in every endeavor? Oh, because you're not working on yourself.
So that's a great point. And I think that's something that doesn't need to be lost in translation. It needs to be very clear. So your self-confidence is based off of activity. Mm-hmm. So it's very similar to brushing your teeth or taking a shower. You take a shower, you smell good. It's awesome. But you don't take one shower. You repeatedly take showers.
I'm all breathed up. What did John say?
I'm all breathed up. Yeah, I'm all breathed up.
I just had to breathe once.
It's a repetitive action. Mm-hmm. Okay? So I don't want to steal anything from you. So go ahead. I don't want to extrapolate anymore.
You know, at a young age, I mean, I don't ever look back thinking that I wasn't confident. I was definitely kept to myself. I'd probably got out of that shell when I got into high school because one of my best friends wouldn't allow it. He was like always up in my business, or just, you know, he just brought the best out of me in that sense. But my mom, she always spoke life into me. She always said that if you put your mind to it, you can do anything you want to do. And honestly, that translated into everything that I ever put my focus on. I did very well.
Wait, you focus?
Yeah, very rare.
This is new information. Yeah. I think we should build this out a little bit.
Yeah.
So, you know, thinking back in retrospect, going through life, I was very talented with extreme sports, and it built my confidence when I would do things that my friends were able and capable of doing, but they were fearful or they couldn't. Because I loved dirt bikes. I used to ride all the time. We would go out and ride, and there would be some trick, hills, climbs, things to do, and my friends would be scared to do it first, and they'd always looked at me. I guess I was just dumb as rocks, or I don't know. I don't care. I took any challenge on head on, and I would climb the hill, and they would be like, "Oh shit, that's awesome!" And so then they would come right behind me. So I always led in the arena that I was good at. And it built confidence. It just built like everybody was looking to me. And then I was bigger than everybody in my friends. So, you know, when it came down to fighting or whatever, I had a lot of wins under my belt at a younger age. So that built a lot of confidence that I didn't care who you were, what you said. If we needed to go, out in the yard and settle things, I was totally confident in that arena too. So I wasn't fearful of being attacked or having to protect myself. And then going into, my career, I think it really developed when I got into sales. I didn't go to college, so I'm not a very good critical thinker. I never had to.
I mean, I don't know. Don't
Well,
overvalue college.
I will say one thing that I do see from those who do go to college, they
think about how to get out of debt.
Well, yes, but
it depends on what you
depends
went to
on what you go to
for.
college for.
I'm a little tainted this week because Charlie Kirk was
Yes.
at our church and like he hammered the whole like where college is now, even different from where it was 15, 20 years ago. It's like not that much time, and it is a whole. Anyways, it's a different topic, but that's why I'm.
Or should I say
jaded.
comprehension?
Sure.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a few things I lack, but then I also gain because I have common sense. I have a lot of common sense. So when it comes down to just the simplest of things, I don't overcomplicate things unless it just depends. It's a mix of different things. But I got into sales. I was fearful going in. That was one thing that I was not confident about because I didn't really care for people as much. I was like, I'd be a man in my own island, and I'm okay. I'll bring in a couple of people that, every so often just to kind of socialize with, but I was good being left alone because I knew who I was, and I was independent. And I was fostered to be independent because I had a single mom that did all the work, and I didn't see her till 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and so I had to, take care of myself from 3 to 8 until she got home, and then, after that point, but so a lot of independence at an early age, which translated to where, you put me in an environment and I've had multiple work environments. So to say, hey, here's your desk. Good luck. No training, no nothing. You got to figure it out. And I love those. I actually enjoy it. I actually, grew from those environments. But going into sales, being taught how to relate to folks really nullified my fear of folks, of people. I was able to communicate. I was able to do things. So it developed that confidence in dealing with folks, selling and all that kind of stuff. And then being mentored, going into the mentorship under Cameron and some other folks that he probably mentioned without naming. That's when I really started to foster those talents and becoming a skill and creating that skill set and that mindset of wanting to continue to grow. For the longest time, I was just kind of like how O is living in the present, just, whatever. My faith was God's going to take care of me, so I'm not going to worry about tomorrow. I'm going to just live in the present and take the punches as I get them and roll with it. And never was really huge on future thinking. I had ideas that I knew God would create a plan and I would fall into it or stumble into it and just continue. Until I met Cameron, he was like, dude, that's like, what did you just say? You just
insane.
Yeah.
I can imagine Cameron just went batshit crazy for a while there.
Yeah.
My head would explode every time I talked to him.
Right.
Focus.
and that was I literally was squirrel. I just was into a lot of different things. I didn't really have a sound mindset of like what I really wanted to do because I liked so much and I enjoyed. Biggest thing is my heart for people. Whatever I can do, it's got to be people invited or involved. But other than that, I was like, I don't care. It makes money. Let's go. So that was a very big challenge for me to figure out, like having confidence in what I was going to do long term. Never was an employee. It's very tough for me to take orders. I'm not an order taker. I like to be independent. You let me do what I need to do and I'll get it done. You just tell me what I need to do to give me the task. I'm out. Let's go.
So there's an interesting correlation of what I said and what you said that I'm realizing as you're talking is it's that whole sink or swim mentality. It's like how much independence are your parents or is your parent or your mentor or whoever giving you to figure some things out as opposed to holding your hand.
Right.
That's what happened for me. That's what happened for you. You talked about it in your work environment too, where and I can think back in work environments where somebody was just like, figure it out or you're fired.
Right.
Dude, your brain is capable of figuring it out. The problem with a lot of our society and our young people now, I believe, is that they have literally had their hand held for every freaking thing. And then it gets to where mama's not standing next to you and you got to make a decision. They're like, I don't know. And then they lose confidence in themselves because their confidence is not in them. It's in the person that's been holding their hand the whole time. And I'm sure you're going to talk on some of this stuff, but like that's a problem. That's a real long-term problem where all your strength and confidence comes from whoever was raising you.
Another person.
As opposed to that person raising you actually letting you go fail.
That's what I like to. You ended with failure. Like we failed a lot. Like we screwed up some shit like crazy. And the cool thing is we didn't die from it. We just grew from it.
They can't eat you.
They can't eat you. Oh man, I love that.
The greatest
phrase.
wisdom I ever got. They can't eat you.
They can't eat you. So the worst case scenario, you might get punched in the face. Whatever. You're gonna live. So it developed, and being mentored by Cameron and some of the other folks that we were tied into through him. It just developed me more so to the man I am today, and I just got hungry. I just kept going with it and still reading and still instilling positivity in my life, and I want to exude that to other people and be a positive light for everybody that I'm around, and that's what I do. That's me.
Yeah, and Cameron, I'm glad that you said that, because the whole purpose in me saying that is I knew that between the two of you talking about where your self-confidence comes from and stuff, there were going to be direct correlations. And the reason that I wanted to do that is because you guys couldn't be any farther, from the
Totally
way
different.
that you attack stuff,
Yep.
right? You're super OCD, Cam, and you're not at all, Wilson. You're more of like a free spirit when it comes like, oh, well, hell yeah, let's go do it. You're
We'll figure it out as we go, man.
You're that type of individual. But one of the things that you can find that's a correlation in there is it's activity. Mm-hmm. There is activity involved. You're fooling yourself if you think you're going to develop self-confidence if you don't have activity in your life. For me, one of the biggest blessings was the fact that my mom did not have time to hold my hand.
Right.
My mom was a single mother. She was working a lot, and I had responsibilities. I mean, and that's one of the things that I think early on in life is one of those lessons that I learned from that my kids will be a recipient of and that's chores and responsibilities early on, because it sucks, and at a young age, your immature mind doesn't understand it. But what you're really developing is confidence in yourself. And I don't care if it's feeding the dog. You start to develop confidence that, hey, I'm capable of doing that. I need to get the cup. I need to pour it into the bowl. And I'm talking about 4 years old kind of thing. Like Maverick is 4, and he feeds Cooper. Now, I don't let him do the water because it's heavy, and that never turns out well. Because it's a big bowl, but the responsibilities and the activity is extremely important. You need to allow your kids to do stuff, and if you have kids, then that's something you can take away from it. But one of the big things that really drove me was seeing insecurity, and this isn't putting my mom on blast, but my mom was very insecure about things, and that was just because of a whole myriad of things that don't even really matter for this conversation. But I was able to see people that were insecure about stuff, and it was one of the biggest turnoffs to me that I've ever experienced. Is insecurity. Insecurity drives me nuts.
Yep.
And it's something that if you are insecure, it's something you need to fix real quick. Like, and hopefully what we're talking about right now, you can take to heart and you can fix insecurity problems and stuff. But one of the things that I really want to keep it simple is it comes to what you think about and what you do. If you notice, Cameron and Wilson both said what I did over and over and over as they explained how they developed their self-confidence. And this was not scripted. These guys had no idea. These guys just answered it based off of the question that I asked. But I think that there's some pitfalls in there that people need to understand. And one of the cool things that I saw, it's not actually cool. It was interesting. They did a psychological study on people's brains and how they accept information. You accept negative information 6 times more often than you accept positive information.
Wow.
It literally takes you saying something 6 times on a positive manner just to equal out the negative. That's why we are so inherently, people want to be happy, but they just are habitually negative because it's easier.
Gosh, you see that a lot too. Yeah. Like nowadays we talk about mainstream media and all those kinds of things, and it's like, what? Let's report something good. Well, then you do, and it's like people almost have to be convinced that it was actually good.
Right.
Yeah. Or if it's negative, it's like, yep, I buy into that.
Yeah. Or it goes right over their head.
Yeah.
I mean, it just because that was the study that they found, because when I guess they presented these individuals with information, and it was like positive, negative, and they remember the negative 6 times more often than they remember the positive. Now, what does that mean for your self-conscience? That means that you are inherently more hard on yourself then you are good on yourself.
Yep.
Then your own cheerleader.
Yep.
So what that tells you is you have to make a conscious effort to fix that in your mind. So if you are not every single day, and you've heard it over and over and over in our podcast we've talked about, if you are not clapping for yourself. Now, don't get me wrong. If you ain't doing shit, don't clap for yourself.
Right.
You might need a kick in the ass, and get moving. But if you're having activity and you are doing what the average is not doing, because let's be honest, you could be a dead fish and float with the rest of them kind of thing and be average. Average is easy. That's what makes it so hard to be great, is average is simple. So I want to talk about a couple pitfalls to avoid. Okay.
Sure.
And I'm gonna rattle off a couple of things here, and I want you guys to kind of put in what you guys kind of believe are some pitfalls that either you can share what your pitfalls have been in the past, or what you've seen other people, because I know you guys have mentored people and things of that nature. So it's great for you guys to be able to put that in there too. But I'll tell you one that I started off with, and this is one for me. This is personally, if self-confidence at its core is your belief in your ability, you have to get away or get to a mental state where you do not require external affirmations from other people. This, by default, puts you in a position where you are not relying on your own beliefs, but you're rather relying on everybody else's belief in you. So if people stop believing in you, your confidence takes a dive.
Yep.
So you have to constantly have that good affirmation, and that's something that I've had to fix in my life in the past, and one of the pitfalls that I've worked on. Overreaching on your goals. We just spoke about this on a couple podcasts ago. Don't go up there and say you're going to become a multi-billionaire next year.
Right.
Because you're going to take a hit in your self-confidence because you're lying to yourself. So what you need to do, your goals should stretch you, and they should make you work hard and have some sort of consistency, but they should be obtainable. Mm-hmm. So it should be a matter of like, I know that I'm going to have to work hard to do this, but if I work hard and I do this every day like I'm saying I'm going to do, I will accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. So don't set a goal to be 6'7" if you're Cameron. It's not going to happen.
No, it's 6'6" is where I'm
6'6" is maxed out. That's my attainable goal.
Yeah, don't tell me different.
Stop focusing on things outside of your control. I'm so sick of seeing people talk about, like, they absolutely consume their minds with stuff that has nothing to do with their abilities, their control. Mm-hmm. If it's outside of your control, then you just need to have faith that it's going to lie the way that it's going to lie, and you need to work your ass off and leave it up to God. Yep. When it comes to stuff like that. If it's outside of your control, stop consuming your mind with it, because all it's going to do is create negativity in your mind. And we talked about it a minute ago, allowing fear to overtake you, because fear obviously keeps you from activity, right? I mean, that's when people freeze up. People freeze up when fear sets in, and negative self-talk. Those are some of the big pitfalls that I have seen. And negative self-talk is something that I think a lot of people struggle with hardcore, because like we said, if the psychology and the study that they did is true, then in theory, every time you say something bad about yourself, you go, man, I fucked up, I suck. You should say 6 things that you're thankful for, that you think you're good at, that you're clapping for yourself. Yep. So it should be a 6-to-1 ratio just to stay level.
Yeah, and I that's a huge part of it. The affirmations, like, what are you affirming in your life? And I didn't know those numbers as far as the how
6-to-1.
the what's the part? I don't know what the word is.
Ratio?
Yeah, ratio. That's not it, but that's a good word. We'll use that.
We'll go with ratio.
Yeah, what the ratio is. The parity? Parity? Is that a good word?
Yeah.
Maybe parity.
Yeah.
Whatever. You just throw a word in there. It's like one of those books that has the blanks. It's an interactive podcast. We're going to come out with some journals.
Just DM us.
Yeah, journals of men. So just DM us, send us some information. We'll get it to you as soon as we create them. So... But no, what are you affirming? What are you affirming in your life? Are you affirming negative or are you affirming positive? I mean, and apparently, according to that study, if it's correct, then you need to positively affirm that much more than you negatively affirm. So that is a huge deal. I don't know how you could possibly think you would be confident or have any kind of swagger or any kind of boldness or passion in your life if you're just constantly saying, I suck, that was terrible, da-da-da-da-da. And we all do it. Like, we all do it. Like, there's all times where we're kind of putting ourselves down or letting ourselves down, and just because you're not saying it out loud doesn't mean you're not saying it in here. So that both apply, So
absolutely,
you have to. I've heard O say before, like, the grass is greener where you water it, And so, are you watering the positive side 6 times, compared to the negative side once or whatever. You just might need a bigger bucket on the positive side, right? The other piece of it is building confidence in your activity, which we've talked a lot about. But there is such a correlation. I've seen that in my own life. I've seen that with people that I have mentored in the past. People that are not doing anything have zero confidence, and rightfully so. What could you be confident in? If you're trying to accomplish a task or a dream or a goal, yet you're not taking any activity towards that dream or goal, of course you lack confidence, as you should. You should totally doubt yourself, not yourself, but you should totally doubt the fact that you're going to accomplish that goal if you're not doing anything, right? Now, I think you should just become okay with it and don't hate yourself and don't be mad, or you should start taking activity towards the goal. One of the two should happen, right? Or there's going to be tension there. Conversely to that, if you're constantly if you're disciplined and you have a rigorous regiment throughout the day where you're constantly putting in, you have practicing good habits and you have great activity that's moving you in the direction that you know for a fact, like you set this goal and then you created a plan and you're working that plan every day, whether it be in your marriage, in your relationship with your kids, in your business, in your church, whatever the thing is that you're growing. If you know that you're working the plan every day, then there should be an abundance of confidence, because you already know, we already know it's an equation. It's as simple as an equation. It's just like a math problem. If whatever the formula is equals goal, right, then the formula is all that matters. You work out the formula, you equal the goal, you equal the dream, you equal the accomplishment. So if you know X, Y, and Z is what has to happen, and you're doing X, Y, and Z every day, there should be zero lack of confidence. Zero. Now, sometimes you have to remind yourself and be patient. You have to remind yourself that it takes a minute to work the problem out, right? It takes a minute to work the equation. I took, I'm not as smart as JP. Wait, no, I don't know. I take that back. That's the end of the statement. I just take it back.
Just as smart as
I'm just
JP.
as smart, almost as smart as JP. No, I went to school for electrical engineering, and I took a class called differential equations. Ooh. You remember that one?
Yep.
That was
Diffie.
a fun one.
I remember Diffie.
If you really like spending an entire evening working one problem, that our homework was one problem, and it would take a page or 2 pages, and I write small.
Yep.
It literally. So, but if you, so I
Proofs.
couldn't rush through that. Like there was a process of getting to the answer. But if I'm doing that and if I'm working that process, then I have confidence in it. And once I've done it, here's the other piece of it is once you've done that once or twice, you really start building some confidence. You really start going, holy shit, like that worked, right? Like I actually went through this process of figuring this out and I accomplished what it said I would accomplish. Can I do that again? Of course. So, but you just have to remind yourself might not be overnight. It's not going to be 2 + 2 always. Sometimes it is 2 + 2. Sometimes it's a page worth of work, right? But there is a ridiculous amount of confidence that is built, and I would even say swagger that is built in activity. Absolutely. Like you can walk in bold as a lion if you know when nobody's watching, you're doing things that nobody does.
That's huge. That's huge is what you do in private. It shows, man. You see somebody walking around with their shoulders back and just happy and just you can bet that their activity is at a high level. So what about you, Wilson? Pitfalls.
Pitfalls. I think a revelation for me was that the uncertainty. You know how you get that uncertain, the butterflies, the pit in your stomach, like, oh, shit, I don't know what's going to happen after I do this. And I thought for the longest time that was not a natural thing. I thought it was just more of a me thing. And then until I heard someone say, oh, I still get butterflies to this day. I just got to put them in formation. And that was a huge turning point for me in my life that was like, oh, so it's okay to have this feeling. I just got to act anyway. And that kind of give you a little bit of a freedom to do the action, because you never know what's going to happen until you just do it, and just do it. I remember there's multiple times as just a little kid, just as an example, going to a theme park, for never been there for the first time, and it felt like it's taken forever, but then you're like uncertain about how it's all going to play out. But then you get there, it's like, it's the blast. You have a huge fun. So that was some things. The other pitfalls was just, I was always told that I was a good kid. And so much so that it was to the point to where I was like, I just want to do something bad just because you think I'm so good. I don't know if y'all have ever had that or something similar.
I've never felt rebellious.
Yeah, rebellious. Yeah, for sure. Well, it was to the point to where if I did fail or did screw up, I was so tough on me that I just felt like I was going to hell. I was the worst person in the world, and it could be something stupid. Like it was like if you were in my mind at that time, it was a very minute thing compared to other people and what they were doing. So it was a stumbling block for me to get over that point to where I don't have to be perfect, quote unquote, you know. And a lot of people struggle with that, and I know I did, was that if I did something and it got you wrong, like I did something wrong, it was just the worst feeling. But then it was the encouragement on the back end was like, dude, it's okay. We can fix this. We can just learn from it and grow from it. And I think that's the biggest thing is what most people are fearful of, the failure and the expectations and what other people are going to think about you. Don't worry about that. Deal with that after the fact, and you could always fix a wrong. You could always own up to it and say, dude, I was wrong. I thought that this would play out this way, and it didn't, and my bad. Let's make it right.
Some people may hear that piece of what you were saying about how I would do something or I'd fail at something or I'd do something wrong and it would just eat me up. Like I'd be like, man, I'm such a screw up or whatever. I think we've probably all been there to some degree. Maybe some of us stayed there longer than others. I would say for me, as I'm hearing that, I'm thinking if you're uncomfortable with failure, you haven't done it enough.
Right.
Like you're not used to it yet. Now, I believe that if you do if stuff happens to you enough, or if you do things enough, you get used to it. Sometimes that can be positive, sometimes that can be negative, depends on what it is. Absolutely. But if you're not used to failure, if you can't stay confident as you're failing, or as John Maxwell would put it, fail forward, then you haven't failed enough. If you're still you beat yourself up so much every time you fail, then you need to fail more. That should be a trigger that goes, I am not failing enough. This is still messing with my head too much, or you're not doing enough other positive activity outside the failure to offset it, right? So, like, as you're failing, it's okay. If you're failing, for me personally, I'll say, as the times I've failed, if I knew that I was still, to go back to that same example, I was still working the equation, I was still following the process of what the accomplishment of my goal was, then as I failed, it was okay because I could be reassured that I was still had the habitual things in my life that were going to help me accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. So the failure didn't mess me up. It didn't hurt my confidence because I knew I had the activity. And then as you just fail more, it almost begins, it's like, the old saying, water off a duck's back. You're just like, yeah, it's just a failure. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. And that'll mess some people's heads up. What do you mean it happens all the time? I'm not supposed to fail. No, that's what school taught you.
Yep.
Right.
Well, and that's the biggest differentiating factor between people that are massively successful and people that are average. Is it's not that it's the failure's any different. It's the perception of the failure.
Right.
Yep. It's the way that they look at it. So you look at failure as an opportunity as a successful individual. Yep. I mean, you could. So, and here's a good example. And this is not a slight at our president right now. Everybody's president in this country.
Ours is a
ours is a collective, But look at that guy. Like, you would think that somebody to be a multi-billionaire, because this is what you're taught in school, somebody to be a multi-billionaire and the most powerful man on the planet, to be quite frank, would have to be some kind of perfect individual that never messes up.
That's sometimes what the expectation is, isn't it?
Isn't that crazy? But that's to me that blows my mind because it doesn't make any sense. And when you look at somebody like that, and if you sat down with an individual like that and just had a conversation with him, you'd go, damn, he's human.
He's just normal.
He puts his pants on like I do. He tripped over the curb a second ago. He still screws up. He just doesn't let it stand in the way of him walking by the curb again.
Right.
Yep. And that's the difference. We shut down. So it's perseverance through activity. That's the big thing. You have to be active, but you have to have perseverance in there.
I've seen so many people get their mind blown when they get around successful people. Just exactly what you're talking about. When they get around them and they realize that they're human. Yep. And I get that to a degree, but I never really remember feeling like that. I never really. It wasn't a disconnect for me that you were human. Now I did think you had. Maybe dialed in on some things I hadn't dialed in on yet. You created some habits I hadn't done. Like, you were doing things better than I was to that point if you were more successful than me. But, like, I never really thought that you didn't still fart and stuff. But I've literally seen people just be, like, have their mind blown. And, like, there's this shift. You can see it in their eyes. They have this shift that, like, oh, my gosh, he's just a person too. Yeah. And I've used this example before. So for anybody that's struggling with this, if anybody's like, I could never do what he does, it's bullshit, number one. Yep. If you did what he does, you could do what he does.
Right.
That's the truth. Yep. If you ever think that somebody's better than you or somebody's got, whatever, they have more value than you as a human, that is absolutely absurd and ridiculous. Just here's a little word picture for you, or a little whatever for you to think about when you're struggling with, this person's just a better person than me. Look at JP. Look how good he looks in that small shirt. Like I could never pull off a schmedium like that. Just remember that every person on earth at some point in the last 24 hours had their pants around their ankles wiping their butt because they had to take a dump.
At the gym.
I truly believe that God created that process to have that humility in your life. I'm serious. Now, some people are like, that is a gross example. It is, but you'll remember it. You'll remember it. Donald Trump, Joe Biden, whoever you think is this awesome person, Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, LeBron James that can't figure out how to close out a series. All these people. Let's call a spade a spade. Seriously, man, like it should have been over 2 games ago. I mean, but all these people that you think are just otherworldly and these celebrities that just seem like they float on clouds, it's bullshit. At some point in the last 24 hours, they were wiping their butt just like you do. They're human. They are human. They just did different things. They made different decisions. They have different habits that have allowed them to get to different places. And that goes for people that I actually do look up to as well, outside the celebrities.
Yeah.
Because I don't.
No, and that's a great point. And the reason that those individuals are so confident is not because they were born floating on clouds. It's because, and even a lot of the celebrities and stuff like that, like, I don't have a lot of respect for their mindset on things that I don't agree with, and that's fine. We can disagree and stuff, but I have respect for their work ethic.
Sure.
I mean, if you look at some of these guys, I mean, even when you talk about movie stars and stuff like that, the reason that they're sitting in the position that they're sitting in is their dedication to consistency of effort over time. Like, these individuals will go and like some of the craziest stuff I've ever heard in my life, like Heath Ledger dying. They say that some of that was because he went insane because he wanted to become insane.
He went into character so much.
His goal was to become insane to do that role, which the reason that he's great and the reason that he's done so well in the movies is because of that. He becomes what it is. Now, you tell me when that guy walks around Hollywood that he's not confident.
Right.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have to be out of your mind to think that guy isn't confident. But he's not confident because he was born that way. He's confident because the effort that he's put behind his goals. That's where the confidence comes in. So we talked about fear. I think fear is a big driving factor for just individuals in general. And the conversation that I had with this young man had a lot to do with fear. Right. And so fear is a natural tendency for anybody. Right. Like you're born with fear. If you weren't overcome by probably sex and the need for food, your fear and your brain would keep you in a hole because it's safe. There's nothing can get you. It's okay. Your brain is naturally wired from a fear perspective to exist and survive rather than thrive. The thrive comes from other factors like a sex drive or the need, to eat and stuff from a very basic level. I like to look at things from a basic level. But for me,
I love that the foundation is having sex and then making a sandwich. Like
that's what it
talk
should
about
be.
A perfect day. Right?
That's exactly right.
Great day.
Is there any football on? I mean, we just wrap it up.
Man, I saw a post, and this is a total squirrel moment here, but I saw a post that was great. It was like a little TV sitting on this really simple little stand, and all it was a TV, no pictures on the wall, like a lawn furniture sitting there and stuff, and then there's a little window behind it and stuff, and a girl had posted this and said, see, this is the problem. Men just, this is not okay. It's just like total, just simplified nothing and stuff. And he said, and one guy commented on it, and it was something along the lines of, no, this is fine. What's not okay is why you guys won't accept how simple it is to make us happy.
Right.
I've seen that, yeah. And that is so true.
So
that's a mouthful.
It is. Yeah. When you think about it, it's in depth there. So, but back to fear. So naturally your body's your brain its job is to keep you alive.
Yep.
That's what it's there for. So explain to me why every one of us will jump on the interstate and do 90 mile an hour in a 6,000-pound vehicle with other vehicles flying by you at the same speed, and you do it without even thinking about it. But if somebody said you had to go stand up in front of 1,000 people and give a speech, you want to die. Which one of those is more detrimental to your physical being and your health and your life?
Yeah, for sure.
The car, for sure.
Well, duh. No, I mean, no shit. So what's the difference?
It's all in your mind.
It's activity. How many times have you drove on the interstate?
Yeah.
How many times have you jumped in that car, started up, drove, and you don't think anything about it? There is no fear there because of activity.
Yep.
You've built so much confidence in your ability to hop on that interstate that you're just good to go. But you've never spoken in front of 1,000 people. It might not have anything to do. You're not going to die. They can't eat you.
They can't
right?
eat you. And typically they're not going to shoot you. It's illegal.
And they're not. But
Or
that's-
hit you with a car while you're on stage.
Exactly. So it's not even detrimental, but your brain tricks you into thinking that is a more fearful situation than driving 90 mile an hour on the interstate. So that just goes to show you what activity does to your brain, your subconscious, when it comes to overcoming fear. So I thought that was a pretty neat thing. So I want to get into one more thing. So this is another thing that is very important in self-confidence. I want you guys to talk about what body language and things of that nature do for your, because I think that activity is important, right? That's physical, and then your mental state is important. But I think there's a tie-in with that has to do with body language and how you present yourself. So how do you guys feel that impacts your self-confidence?
Huge. I mean, if you can look yourself in the mirror and you like go, damn, it's a good looking dude, that's a good step in the right direction. But
that's just body. That ain't body language.
But body language. Well, yeah, but I mean, at
Are
the
we
same
talking
time,
shirts off or on?
shirts off, naked coming out of the shower.
Okay.
I don't care. Shorts. Shirts. I can speak.
I can speak.
But I mean, as you walk in the room, I mean, right. You should have confidence, and the air expectation, what you bring to the table, you should be the light of the room. You should come in and dominate. That's how you should always think, and you need to program your mind beforehand. And whatever the situation might be, you can't go in there in a defeated mode, like you're gonna go, I'm gonna fail at this. You're doomed to fail. Your mindset has to be right. That's why whenever you go and watching Kingdom, these guys put the earphones on before they go into the cage, because they know that once they enter that cage, it's game on. It's time to be an animal. So I'd be excited to see what they're listening to or hearing what they're listening to. And I know you like to listen to like some heavy metal or whatever when you're working out, because it's triggering your mind to set up like, all right, get pumped. And you got to be pumped up in the situation that you're being fearful. And sometimes it's just an act of a simple courage of just being like, whoa, you just go at it, whatever, fuck it, and just go.
So what does that look like from a physical perspective? Like what I'm getting at here is, what can somebody do from a physical perspective to help their self-confidence physically? Like what?
I mean, stiffen up your chest, walk right,
Speak with your chest.
Don't look at the ground. Look ahead of you. Look at the person in the eyes when you're talking to somebody, if that's the case. Be prepared, going in the situation, being prepared and ready for whatever the situation may be, whatever it is. That prepared is probably the biggest thing. That's going to give you that confidence, because if you're prepared for the situation, you already know what the questions are going to be or the answer is going to be, whatever the case may be. I don't know what the situation would be. It just depends on if you're going into the cage, you're going to come in there going, whoa, or you should be, not like, fucking, I'm about to get my head knocked in. I mean, it's all about your preparation for whatever you're looking to achieve.
Yeah, being prepared is a big deal. Like, I wouldn't have necessarily gone that route, but when I think about, I'm thinking more of like a one-on-one conversation. What's my body language? How do I have confidence in that? If I'm prepared for the conversation, whether that's like we have an actual topic and we're debating, or I've just prepared through a life of habitual growth, then I'm not thinking about what I'm saying so much, because that's coming out because it's in me. I can concentrate a little more on how am I presenting myself. So if you are prepared, you probably do have better body language. That's a good point. But to maybe answer your question a little more, JP, is like, there are intentional things. Like, I mean, I hear you talk about being on the balls of your feet all the time, like leaning in. I believe that there's confidence shown in your body language depending on the topic or the other person. I do believe in mirroring. I think that's a good thing. That's more of a sales tactic. But it also works when you're just trying to connect with somebody, which really is what I believe sales are. I think sales gets a bad name, but it really is relationships and connecting, and filling a need. And I think if you're having conversations with people, as you should, because you're human, then you can always fill a need. You can always give somebody something they don't have, and you can receive something you don't have from them. So there's give and take there in every conversation. But I believe that standing upright, like your chest out, your shoulders back, your head up, your eyes, eye contact. I mean, these are all things that I talk to my kids about. And, some people, and we all do this, but like my 2-year-old was walking through the house the other day with his shoulders slunched over and his head down a little bit, and he was kind of flopping his arms. It was different than the Conor McGregor walk, only because he had his head down. Conor McGregor comes in the cage flopping his arms.
He's loose.
But he's loose,
Yeah.
and his chest is out, and his head's up, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this fucker's about to tear me up. Cash was kind of like sloped down because he was pouting a little bit. And Owen, I've been working on him for 5 years now, since he was born. And Cash I have too, but he's 2. He's starting to get some of this. I start early. Like, that's not how we walk. Like, we walk with our head up. We walk with our – and Owen, it's so funny because I'll catch him. Like, if he's just slouching a little bit, I'm like, it's not how we walk. Walk confidently, stand up. And he'll, like, over-exaggerate and, like, stick his neck out like a turtle. And, it's like, I don't care. I'd rather have it on that extreme.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But it is important because when you walk into a room, do people feel you? Do they feel you? When you're in a conversation, do people feel like you're engaged? Are you showing confidence? If you are in a negotiation type of environment, are you showing confidence in the way you're sitting, the way you're looking, the way you're moving your head? All those kinds of little things. Now, I also believe that there are times where you can show confidence by being relaxed. Mm-hmm. You can kick back and cross your legs if you're in the right environment and show that there's a total confidence, and no matter what you say, it doesn't sway the way I think. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's probably bordering on arrogance, and that's okay sometimes if you border on it. Just don't be. But yes, I believe in body language big time. I believe it's uber important, and most of the time people will tell you, and I don't know what the statistics are, but I've read them before, about how much more is said with your body than is actually said with your words.
Yeah, I think it's like 80-20. 80% of it has to do with how you say things, and 20% is actually what you say. And there's a bunch of different studies, so they're all different. So. And those are all great points, and just to boil it down, keep it really simple. For one, shoulders back, heads up, not stiff, but confident.
Chin up, I guess, is a good way to say it.
Yeah, chin up. As a man, that's the way you should do it. Wilson, I heard you say eye contact. That's a big thing. Make eye contact with people. Stop looking at the floor, or stop wandering and stuff when you're having a conversation. We've talked about this in the past. We've covered this in detail, and I can't remember what episode it was, but we've got an episode previously where we actually go into a little bit more detail on this, and not staring them down in the eyes like weird kind of shit.
Oh, I'll make eye contact until somebody breaks. I'm not going to break first.
It's not that's not
necessarily the goal.
No, I'm just kidding.
That's weird.
I like to mess with
that's
it because
weird as shit.
you'll see him go like this, like all over the place. I'm like, dude, right here. Here.
Well, I would probably do that too because I'd want to walk away. Like if you were staring at me so attentive that you were like, I'm not looking away. You're looking away before I did. That's not the purpose.
I'll break away, but I'm saying like when we go and engage. Yep. I'm eye contact until you break away, and then I'll start breaking away.
So be confident enough to have your head up, shoulders back. Be confident enough to make eye contact, and be confident enough to know when to shut up.
And sit up straight.
The worst thing in the world is somebody who feels the need to be so insecure that they have to run on and on and on and on and on because they don't want to stop the conversation, or they feel it's awkward, or they don't know how. One of the things, and this is for all you single guys out there, when you meet a girl, walk up to her, introduce yourself. Hi, my name is whatever it is. And get whatever her name is, and look at her, ask her a question, and then stop and sit there. I'm going to tell you right now. I mean, there is a big sense of confidence that a guy can come up and be like, "Hey, how you doing?" And you almost expect the answer from her because you're not like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, I saw you over here sitting and stuff. I thought you were pretty. Are you from here?" That's over eager.
Right.
Shows that you have anxiety. You're all there's no confidence. A confident man walks up and goes, "Hi, my name's Josh. Are you from here?"
And I want to build on that because that is so true. And from I work in a sales environment. O could probably talk to this, and probably Wilson too. Mm-hmm. Is one of the most powerful things I do is I keep my confidence in what I'm presenting. So I say what I'm going to say, and then I'm done saying it. And you'll hear this from sales techniques, like you talk about whatever it is, whatever you're selling, then you talk about the price, and then shut up.
Yep.
Next one to talk loses. When by losing means if say it's that girl. If she's the next one to talk, you won. Mm-hmm. Typically because she wanted to continue the conversation, right? It also happens when somebody comes back to something. Like I've had customers come back to me and ask me, they're trying to get me to wiggle down on price or this or that or whatever. And if the answer is just, let's just say real generic, is that the best you can do? Yep. That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
Oh, yeah.
It will win every time. I'm telling you. It will win every time because there's a confidence there that's like, oh, that really is it. Like he's not. But if I go, well, yeah, I mean, that's really all I can do. I kind of did this. I kind of did that. Da-da-da-da-da. I'm waning,
And I coach a lot of guys that I mentor through my full-time job on interview skills. And I told him, I said, one of the worst things that you can do is go in there and run on about your stuff. I don't know if you ever heard of the STAR method and stuff like that, situation, task, action, result. It's kind of how you lay it out with your answers and your responses to their question. But when you're done, stop. Like, don't keep on to the point where they have to stop you. Mm-hmm. You should stop, and they should be wanting more. Not from a you didn't provide enough information, but your answer was so intriguing that they're like, oh, no shit. So you did all that, huh? Wow. And and it goes back to being prepared. When you can go through the entire STAR method, and at the end in your results, you're like, and this is what happened. Boom, boom, boom. Here's my data. This is the result. This is the improvement that I made. And you stop. It's huge. Yep. It's unbelievable. And what it shows is you're confident. Yep. In what either you're selling or what you're talking about, because you're selling yourself at that point. With a girl, you're selling yourself. You might be selling a product, but
subconsciously, this is how it works subconsciously for those that are still trying to grasp this. You just said it shows you're confident because you stopped talking. Why? Because silence is very uncomfortable.
Yes.
Silence is uncomfortable. So who's the more confident person? The one that's willing to stay silent or the one that feels like they need to fill that silence with talking?
Right.
So you just controlled everything in that conversation because you were willing to stay in an uncomfortable position more than they were. That's how it works.
Yep. And there's a lot of truth to that. So I want to start wrapping up. I think it's pretty simple, right? What do you think about, and what kind of actions do you take on a daily basis? If your activity level is not where it needs to be, you need to pick your activity level up. If you think about crappy stuff, then you need to fix that. So, in y'all's opinion, just if you gave a quick summary on where you go from today, what would you, if you had somebody sitting in front of you that was like, my self-confidence sucks, what do I do to make it better? Give me some love right here at the end.
Well, go back and listen to this episode again because there's a lot of really good stuff in there. That's the number one thing I would do. Go back and take some notes. But you have to start speaking well of yourself, and out loud and internally. You have to. You have to start believing in yourself, which will come from that, and create some habits. And if you don't know which habits to create, they're pretty simple. We talk about them. I think we're episode 54, 55 at this point, whatever it is. Go back and listen to the other ones and pick up some of the things that are said there. Create actionable steps in your life and make that a habitual thing. Thirdly, find a mentor. Find a mentor, somebody that you will allow to speak into your life. There is confidence in the fact that you're not the only one that you're taking counsel from. If you're only taking counsel from yourself, you'll tell yourself anything, right? I can rationalize anything to myself. But if I have somebody else that is guiding me, maybe correcting me sometimes, or somebody that maybe needs to say, hey, that was stupid, right? I have confidence in the fact that I remember in the past when I have mentored other people, the reason I was so confident in mentoring them is because I was being mentored, right? So I had confidence that I wasn't screwing them up because I was learning from somebody else. It just wasn't my own perspective. So those three things: speak well of yourself, positive affirmations, create good habits in your life, and then find a mentor.
That's huge. My thing is take inventory of who's speaking into your life. If you're hanging around people that are constantly giving you a bunch of negative and telling you you're a piece of shit, then you need to get rid of them. You need to X them out of your life now. Hang around the right people. If you don't have anybody after you do all that, then go find some new people that you can actually be comfortable being around, because your sphere of influence is huge to your personal development. And your confidence comes from that too, because if you're hanging around people that are confident, you're going to get some of that confidence rubbed off on you. So that's huge. I would say that you need to be intentional about what you say and what you do, what you listen to, what you're listening, reading, watching, looking into. You really need to make sure that you put safeguards against those stumbling blocks that are going to cause you to have a hit on your self-confidence. Because if, like, say you're a Christian and you're a man and you know that, every time you look at porn, you feel like a piece of shit afterwards, put safeguards to keep you from having to be able to reach out to that. because your flesh is weak and it's going to go after those type of things. And every single time you do those same things habitually, that is a stumbling block for you. You're damaging your personal brand and you. So you have to take that intentionally and make sure you don't do that. And then also I agree 100% with what Cameron said. You have to have somebody speaking life into you. You have to have somebody that's going to be your true north. If you don't have somebody who's going to be able to direct you in your path, that builds confidence in itself, because then you know that somebody has already gone there, done that. And if you don't have somebody like that, I encourage you to find somebody. Whether if you're a Christian, you have somebody in church that you can go to with those questions, or if you're just a man that's just you don't believe, but you have other people that are in your field that you want to accomplish and emulate their life, and you believe in everything that they have, then go to them and ask for that guidance and ask for that time. It's very valuable. Even if you have to pay for a couple lunches here or there, it's important. Take it seriously.
Yep, for sure. And I would agree with that. I think you guys pretty much said it. And I broke the recap for me and some of the practical aspects down to activity and mindset is kind of how I split things up. And one of the things from an activity perspective is reduce your TV time by an hour a day. If you spend 3-4 hours a day on the TV, reduce it by 1 hour, because the TV actually reduces your activity level. It's proven. They've done all kinds of psychological studies and stuff on that. The more TV you watch, the less activity that you actually have in your life. So replace that 1 hour with music. Music has a way of getting you moving. Music has a way of reaching your subconscious. Music has a way Wilson, you mentioned it. That's why a lot of these athletes and things, they listen to music before games, because it gets you in the right mental state. They don't go and watch TV. They listen to music. So maybe in the morning, whatever it may be, spend an hour of the time that you would be watching TV listening to music. Okay. That's an activity thing. Fix your body language. So keep your head up. Spend 10 minutes, and you can look this up on your own. It's called a power pose. They did some studies on that as well. A person that didn't feel very confident about something they were about to do stood for 5 minutes with their hands on their hips in that Superman pose. That's what they call it, with chest up, head up, and stuff like that. And it changes things. So even when you're in a bad mood, smile, because it'll change things. Your physical attributes will actually change the way that your mind works. Get active. Start a workout routine. Your body releases endorphins whenever you work out to counteract the pain from the workout. It can change your day. It can change the way that you feel, and ultimately the activity affects your mindset. And then from a mindset standpoint, you guys mentioned it, change your association. So many people are scared to cut ties. If you were married, I suggest that you work on your marriage. As far as the people that you choose to be in your life outside of that, don't be afraid to cut ties. It's hard to win a race when you got an anchor tied to your foot. Don't be around people that are not clapping for you and pushing you at the same time. They should be pushing you, going, dude, you're better than this, but at the same time, they should be celebrating all your wins with you. If they're not, they're probably not the right people to be around. And go out and learn something new, man. Every day, just set a goal to learn something new. People that have low confidence are less likely to take risks, and they're less likely to do anything new. So go learn something new every day. It should be a goal of yours, and spend 6 times more time speaking into yourself. Cam, you made a comment about your self-talk. Make sure it's positive. But this is the thing. Consciously, what you need to do is every time you beat yourself up about something, you say something negative about yourself, you need to find 6 things that you appreciate, that you think you're great at, and that you're thankful for. If you will do that and do 6 times every time something bad happens, then it'll help you start to cultivate that beautiful mind, for a lack of better words. And ask yourself the right questions. Stop setting yourself up with loaded questions. You ask shitty questions, you get shitty answers. That works out in public, but it also works in your mind. Stop setting yourself up for failure with the questions that you ask yourself. Like, am I really a shitty person? Stop asking them. Like, come on, man.
Right.
Yeah. Like, and that's the truth though. Stop asking yourself bad questions, because you're going to get bad answers. You're setting yourself up for it. And start digging into some books. I'm going to give you guys a couple recommendations. As a Man Thinketh, go read that. That'll teach you how to think. That'll teach you what to tell yourself. That'll teach you how to program your subconscious mind. Go read Relentless. Relentless, I think, is a great book for building your self-confidence, because Relentless really shows you that it's nothing more than tenacity and action in becoming great. It's not anything outside of that. And then The Magic of Thinking Big, I think, is a really good book for self-confidence and building that. And I want to leave it.
And if you didn't write those down, you can just go to shepherdsof.men, click the little join button in the menu, and you'll have access. You'll get a list of our recommended reading. I think all 3 of those are on there, but if not, at least 2 out of 3.
They sure are. I think all of them are on there, actually. But we'll leave you guys with that. I know it was a lot of information, so go back, check this out. Like Cam said, listen to it again, because ultimately your self-confidence is going to set the path for where you're going to go in life. If you're not a self-confident person, stop fooling yourself and thinking that you're going to do anything great. You need to develop your confidence before greatness comes. But you need to start moving on the path of activity for that. And that's what we're here for. I love nothing more than meeting a young man that's willing to look me in my eyes and shake my hand with a firm handshake, because it tells me that the next generation that's coming up is going to know how to handle shit when shit happens, you know? So we love you guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Go check out all our handles within the Facebook, Instagram at Shepherds of Men. You can go to our website, as Cam mentioned, at Shepherds of Men.
Blah, blah.
Let's try that
blah,
again. Shepherdsof.men. We've got a ton of really good apparel that's coming out there to spread the word about what we're doing here. Appreciate you guys listening. Love you guys. Spin the movie.